morning. Hope y'all are well this morning. Jeff Spence hasn't killed anybody, and he has chosen in this case, he's selected to be the criminal defendant. And because he's selected to be the criminal defendant, the accused person, the state of Mississippi has gone through all sorts of contortions and changes of pace, different approaches to make the evidence fit Jeff Spence. It's kind of like trying to put a square peg into a round hole. That's what they've been trying to do for a year and a half. Mr. Mueller wants you to pay attention to the timeline. I certainly do. Spences were with their daughter in Tippah County for several months in 22. I'd been visiting there off and on for a year and a half or 2 years, but after the baby was born in July of 22, they spent much more time here helping their daughter than first time developing mother and son. They were here until November the 29th, as Mr. Mueller told you, and they left at about 3 p.m. Where they live in Virginia, it's not an afternoon's drive. It's 10 hours. They drove 10 hours home. 3 hours of the morning they arrive, get some rest, and the next day they're doing things at their property, their home, that have been neglected for weeks. Spent the day there at their home. The government says, well, let me back up. This case is based on government theory, not government evidence. There is no evidence, none, zero, that Jeff Spence was at Kirby Carpenter's house on November the 30th. I don't dispute that that's the day he died. I just dispute who did it. Obviously somebody was there, knew that he would be there. Jeff Spence didn't know that. One of the things you're going to learn about Kirby Carpenter, you're going to learn a lot more than Mr. Mueller told you. He wasn't just a businessman and he was a drug dealer, and he was a stolen gun runner. You get that from some witnesses right here. And when he was killed on November 30th, Jeff Spence was with his family, his wife, in Virginia, 10 hours away. The government's first theory, trying to put him in this square hole, said that, well, he never left. He and his wife didn't leave Mississippi. They went to Alabama, got a motel room, and came back. They couldn't develop any evidence of that. So what'd they do? They trashed it. And the next theory, not fact, next theory was that Mrs. Spence, who was severely ill, drove herself back to Virginia on November 29th, 10 hours. And that Jeff Spence stayed behind. Where? They don't have any evidence of where. They don't have any evidence at all. That's theory. And the theory is that he hid out and killed Kirby Carpenter. Now, they couldn't make that fly because if that were the case, Jeff Spence is standing up here in Tippah County, Mississippi, afoot, with no way to get back to Virginia. Well, that wasn't going to fly either. So they trashed it. Third theory is that he drove from Mississippi 10 hours to Virginia, wee hours of the morning, gets some rest, turns right around, and comes back to Mississippi for 10 hours. An almost 70-year-old man driving 20 hours in 24 hours. hit out and kill Kirby Carpenter. And then 10 hours back to Virginia. It's not plausible. It doesn't fly. As they used to say in West Point, Mississippi, that dog doesn't fly. That is not based on any fact. None. It's based on their theories trying to make a round peg go into a square hole. And it just doesn't fly. One of the things you need to know about Kirby Carpenter, and you'll get it from people on the witness stand. Kirby lived a very self-centered, independent life. Kirby lived life on his terms. He wasn't telling you where he was going tomorrow. He didn't want you to know his schedule. He didn't have a schedule a lot of times. And he was known. Kirby might leave tomorrow, come back Saturday. You never knew. He was that independent. He didn't want anybody telling him what to do. Just think about how foolish it is for the government to take the position on their theory that Jeff Spence would drive 10 hours to Virginia, 10 hours back to Mississippi. How in the hell is he always going to see Kirby Carpenter? You don't know what Kirby Carpenter's schedule was. He's coming all that way just on the chance that he might encounter him? Does that make sense? I say no. No. And the government has Kirby's cell phone. The government has Jeff's cell phone, or had. They do what's called an analysis of the phone. In my profession, we call it a dump. They're just downloading the information. And a lot of times it's thousands and thousands of calls, text messages, whatever. If you take that cell phone of Kirby Carpenter's and you analyze it, you'll see that there was no contact from Jeff Spence to Kirby Carpenter. You going to be around? I'll see you there about 6:30. Okay. No back and forth. None. No communication. No evidence. Look at Jeff Spence's phone. You find the same thing. There's no communication. And they want you to believe, and we're going to nail this down with their witnesses, they want you to believe that he went to Virginia for 10 hours, drove back 10 hours, killed somebody, drove back to Virginia in 10 hours, all on the chance that he might encounter Kirby Carpenter. It just doesn't fly. Okay? This case went on for a year. The government didn't know who to charge. And they ended up charging the arrest warrant for Jeff Spence was November the 30th, actually 1 year after Kirby's death. And that warrant was, they hadn't developed any evidence of Jeff's being president of Mississippi, back and forth, nothing. A couple of things I want you to listen for. The warrant that was issued for Jeff's arrest was based on information that a career criminal named David Barnes conjured up to get himself some sort of break from the government, because David Barnes is a career criminal. He's facing life in prison. He's in jail in Tippah County right now with some special breaks because he's now their trustee. But David Barnes knows how the system is played. He's facing life imprisonment as a career criminal. Habitual is what we call it in Mississippi. And he gave a statement on November the 3rd, 2022, after he was arrested yet again for a series of burglaries, break-ins, and thefts. David has a fondness for stealing your stuff, selling it at a pawn shop. matter of fact, pawn shop is his nickname because that's what he does. He steals your stuff and sells it at pawn shops. And he'd already been to prison for doing that years ago. And he got arrested in 2022. Well, let me back up. He worked also. David worked for Kirby Carpenter. When Kirby was found, one of the first people that law enforcement talked to was David Barnes. David Barnes didn't give any statements about anybody. He just denied knowledge of everything. And then in 2023, David Barnes gets talked to again by Chris McAllister, typical law enforcement. Doesn't say anything about Jeff Spence or anything. He gets talked to again in 2023 about Kirby's case. Again, doesn't say anything incriminating to anybody. Now, November the 3rd of 2023, David gets arrested for 4 more break-ins. 4 more break-ins. And that's when David is savvy enough with the criminal justice system in Tippah County to know that, holy cow, I'm in a whole bunch of trouble. So David makes up a story about something that he heard at Kirby's funeral that Caitlin, that's Kirby's girlfriend, something that Caitlin said at the funeral incriminating herself and her father. It took him a year to come up with that. He came up with it because David is savvy at covering his tail end, so to speak, getting some sort of benefit, some sort of relief. I'll tell you a story about it in just a minute. And that's the evidence that they were flying on. When I got involved in this case, that was their evidence. It's what David Barnes said. David Barnes is not credible. He's simply not credible. And later, recently this year, Caitlin, who felt like she needed to get herself out of trouble, get herself back to her baby, gave a statement to law enforcement. And part of that statement was David Barnes is a liar. What David Barnes said, I said at the funeral home, is a lie. He's simply making it up. And that's in keeping with David Barnes's personality, his temperament. When he gets himself in trouble, he tries to do something to alleviate the trouble. And I'll tell you this, David Barnes one time stole a church's money. He stole the money from the church at Faulkner up in Tippah County. And to cover his tracks, to help himself out, you know what he did? He tried to burn the church down and burn all the evidence. He went to prison for that. The notion that you're going to hear what Caitlin has to say, I'm telling you, it's all contrived to get herself out of the focus. She's the one who lived with Kirby, not Jeff Spence, not Karen Spence. Caitlin was the one in the house. She was the one who was there. And she was in this house November 29th, 30th, December 1st, December 2nd, and for some reason it took her 4 days to go find, 3 days to go find Kirby's body. That's something you'll have to determine whether or not she's credible. But you will hear in this case evidence of text messages between Karen, the mother, Caitlin, the daughter, 30th, clearly putting Jeff Spence at home in Virginia. Not in Mississippi. When he's in Virginia, he's cooking a meal for the family. He's not on his way to Mississippi. They want you to think 10 hours up, 10 hours back. No. November 30th, Jeff Spence was at his home, taking care of his business, taking care of his relationship with his wife, minding their own business. And as we go through this case, bear in mind, there's no evidence, no hard, direct evidence putting Jeff Spence where they want him to be, where they're trying to make you think he was. No. Don't fall for it. They say that when they searched the safe deposit box in Virginia, they found Jeff Spence's collection of stuff. I mean, he's been, what Kirby was doing in terms of what I told you yesterday I call collectibles, Jeff's been doing it since Kirby was not even out of diapers. That's how long Jeff's been collecting coins, medals, and that's it. Kirby was a baby. And they do find in this safety deposit box some things that Jeff had gotten from Kirby. He bought from Kirby. They did business together. Not all the time. Jeff did business with a lot of people. But he did business with Kirby, and I can't tell you exactly where everything was in that box that he had bought from Kirby. But he did. He had a relationship, business relationship with Kirby, not just a family relationship. One of the things I want you to focus on is when Kirby's body was found on December 2nd, found by Kate on December 2nd. Law enforcement then floods the place. Okay. Chris McAllister, who was the case agent, I think, in this case, is a deputy sheriff investigator in Temple County. I think he's going to be the first witness. Kirby had a room in his house that everybody called the safe room. When I say the safe room, I don't mean a place you hid in tornadoes. A room full of safes. I don't know. A wall covered in safes. Had stuff in it. Now, if Jeff was the killer on November the 30th in the evening when he was at home in Virginia, and if what was in his safe deposit box came from Kirby, you would think that there would be some damage to those safes. Some prying them open, breaking the locks. There's no evidence of that. Whoever killed Kirby wanted to kill Kirby. Wanted to kill Kirby. And Kirby, I told you, meth dealer, pill dealer, gun dealer. Kirby lived a high risk and dangerous lifestyle. And he was in a dispute almost completely daily with somebody about usually money. He sold a liquor store to the guy, and I've subpoenaed that guy, but I can't find him. And that guy had made a verbal threat to Kirby shortly before Kirby's death. Kirby was threatened the year before by another county resident with whom he had a business dispute over $2,500. The guy threatened to shoot him in the face for crying out loud, or haul him out to the street in Ripley and beat him to death with his streets. Kirby had just recently, before he was killed, sold some lab diamonds, fake diamonds, to Chattanooga diamond dealer and ripped him off. Passed off the diamonds as real, and they weren't. He was dealing with meth dealers, even at his house at Lake Mohawk, at various parking lots. And he had a gang in Memphis that he dealt with regularly. So, pay attention to all these details. Just bear in mind that the government's burden is to prove to you that I think Jeff did business with Kirby. I admit that he did. But business with a lot of people. Make the government prove to you that Jeff Spence was at County Road 600, Tippah County, Mississippi, on November the 30th, at whatever time they say, 7 or 8 p.m. I can prove it to you beyond a reasonable doubt and to your individual satisfaction. And I'll be revisiting all of these facts with you as we go through the witness.